Tonight we've been talking about a very important topic, a very important part of the life of the believer, and that is shyness or modesty. And to help us explain about modesty, we have a couple of very special guests here with us tonight. So bear with us. They've come all the way from China to help us explain about modesty. Let's meet our guests. That's right. We have two very special guests. We have Susie, and Susie, as you can see, she's made in China, and Susie is wearing what you would call a modern style hijab these days that a lot of people are wearing throughout the Muslim world and many Muslim lands, that women are wearing this type of hijab, and we will discuss this in a moment. And our other guest, very special guest, is Fatima. And Fatima is wearing a little bit more conservative clothing. She is wearing what we would call the Yemeni khimar. So welcome to our guests. Now let's take a look at our two guests. If we don't mind there, Susie, if we can just start with you. We want to take a look and to see, has Susie met the conditions of hijab? Now, the first condition, we said that it covers the entire body. So let's take a look at Susie's. You can see here that the neck is open. She has covered most of the body, but the neck is open. So she has to get an X for this. I'm sorry, Susie. The next is that the material is not see-through. Material is not see-through. This is not see-through, but wait a minute. This hijab here is see-through. I can see through it. I can see her head. So she gets another X. I'm sorry, Susie. I'm sorry. The third is that it must be loose-fitting. Loose-fitting. Well, you cannot see, you have to be able to not see the shape of the body. And I'm sorry, but I can see the shape here, and very much I can see the shape on the legs. So we're going to have to give Susie another X. It must not be perfumed. I just excuse you for a minute, Susie. I think there's some perfume on there. I think Susie's put some perfume there. I'm sorry, Susie, but we're going to have to give you another X. Another X. It must not be worn for showing off. This is pretty average clothing, pretty ordinary, and you could wear it in the house for your husband, but not out on the street. But we could say that let's give her a tick for this, that she didn't wear it for showing off. It must not resemble the clothing of men. Well, we could say, and I'm sure there are those who would say that the jeans are the clothing of men, but they are women's jeans. So let's give her a tick for that and say, okay, she's not wearing the clothing of men, although the way she has tied her hijab is similar to the way that I have mine tied. So we would let's give her a cross. I'm sorry, Susie. We're going to have to give you another X there. I'm sorry about that. Number 8 is that it must not resemble the dress of the disbelievers. Well, let's be fair and say that this is not a dress of the disbelievers, and let's give her a tick for this. And it must not have any souls, any crosses or any pictures with souls. And she has won with that one, so she has got another tick there. So if we take a look at the account of Susie, we can see that she has many crosses. Even one cross, brothers and sisters, even one X there means that you have not fulfilled the conditions of hijab. And Susie has lost in many of those conditions. So let's take a look now at our other companion here, our other guest, Fatima. And excuse me there, Fatima, if you don't mind. We take a look here at Fatima. Fatima is wearing what we would call the Yemeni. A Yemeni is from the south of the Arabian Peninsula. And this is a black khimar on top of a black abaya. Let's go through and see what she has, if she has passed the test of a hijab that is following the conditions of hijab. Number 1 is that it must cover the entire body. So if we take a look, it is covering I cannot see any of her body. This is great. She's got a tick for the first one. This is one of the most important ones. The second one is that the material is not see-through. If you don't mind there, Fatima, we'll take a look here. And clearly, we cannot see any skin or any hair upon Fatima. So clearly she has passed this test, that the material is not see-through. And why I'm on that point, a lot of people say, well, must we wear black? Do we have to wear black? The answer is no. You don't have to wear black. The Sahaba and the women of the Sahaba used to wear different colors at times. It is related that Aisha radiallahu anha used to wear yellow or had worn yellow at a time. Why do women wear black? A lot of women like black, and black in fact is the lightest material to use that is not see-through. So people often think that black means hot, but in fact black means coolness, because in able to have a hijab that is not see-through, if you were to use white, you would need to use a very thick material, because white is a very see-through material. But black, as you can see, this is a very thin material and it is not see-through. So that is why a lot of people wear black. But it is not compulsory to wear black, and I repeat that. The next one is that it's loose-fitting. Let's take a look at Fatima, loose-fitting. If we take a look here, we cannot see the shape of Fatima's body at all, not her legs, not her breasts, nothing. So this is clearly, she has passed the test on number 3. Number 4, that it has no decorations upon it attracting men. Some of those shiny little butterflies that they put on, and the man's walking and, whoa, does this have any of them? No, it doesn't. So she's got another tick. The next is that it must not be perfumed. So I just, if I can have your permission there, Fatima. Alhamdulillah, Fatima has not put any perfume upon her dress. So she has passed this one. It also must not be worn for showing off. And it doesn't look like it, but this is something also that can be based on your intention. It can be with your intention. Sometimes when a woman puts on a dress like this, she might feel that she's better than other women. And when she does that, she begins to wear it for showing off. So be very careful of your intention. When you're wearing a dress like this, wear it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else. So we'll give her a tick for, we cannot judge her intention, but let's say that she has not done it to show off. So we'll give her a tick for that one. Number 7 is that it must not resemble the clothing of men, and I'm pretty sure she's passed on that one. It must not resemble the dress of the disbelievers. Well, I haven't seen too many disbelievers wearing this dress, so she's passed on this one. And it must not have any crosses or pictures that contain souls upon it. And if we take a look, there's no crosses on there and there's no pictures. So clearly our guest Fatima has passed the test, and unfortunately for Susie, we're going to have to make some changes. Susie has lost in many areas. She has not covered the whole body. Her clothing is tight, even it's see-through, even it was perfumed. So there's many areas that we need to work on with Susie, and if any of us, if any of believing sisters out there can see themselves in this condition, then we need to make a change. We need to make a real change in our lives. And the best time to make that change is now. When we're talking about hijab for the believing woman, we're talking about her entire dress. Not only that is which upon her head, but that which covers her and protects her from the onlookers outside. So first of all, where do we get this hijab from? If we return to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, things are very clear. They become very clear to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran in at least 2 places, in Surah An-Nur and also in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 59 in Surah Al-Ahzab, that a clear revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describing or giving the order for the believing woman to wear the hijab. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in this verse of the Quran for the Prophet ﷺ to tell his wives, his daughters and the believing women to cast their garments over their bodies when going outdoors. A very clear ayah calling the believing women to wear the hijab. And the reason for this verse, the reason it was revealed, is because in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you can imagine in Medina that when you needed to go to the toilet, there was no toilets. They used to have to go out into the desert. And what happened in those days was that the evildoers, rapists, people who would rape women, they would wait and they would be sneaking up and waiting for a beautiful woman to come out of her house and to go to the toilet at night or even in the daytime, to go out into the desert there, to go to the toilet. And when that happened, these people would wait for a woman and pounce upon her. If she looked beautiful, they would pounce upon her and rape her. And of course, that is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for the believing women. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse, the believing women began to wear the hijab. And they were immediately protected. They were protected, and this is one of the miracles from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the hijab is a protection against rape. It is a protection for the woman. And whenever one of these evildoers saw this, or saw a woman wearing this, it was as if they were invisible. They would not take any notice. And they would wait for another girl who came out who was already half naked, so they could have their way with her. So this is the reason for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealing this verse in the Quran, this ayah. But when we're talking about hijab, brothers and sisters, and I say brothers as well because one day you may be a father and you may have a daughter or you may have a sister. So it is also your responsibility. Hijab is an act of worship. Hijab is an act of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time sister, that you cover yourself in the correct way and you leave that house, that every time you are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gaining reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, closer to Allah through your hijab. So let's take a look at the conditions of the hijab. The first condition of the hijab is that it covers the entire body, except for the face and the hands. We've said this, except for the face and the hands. There is different of opinion amongst the scholars whether that is correct. There are those who will say no, it must cover the entire body, including the face and the hands. And then there are those who will say except for the face and the hands. We don't want to get into that difference of opinion at the moment because there's not the place for that, but we will say the first condition is it must cover the entire body. It must cover the entire body. The second is that the material is not see-through. It is not good enough to have a hijab that you can see the hair underneath, or to be wearing a dress that you can see the skin underneath. For this has not met the conditions of hijab. Number 3 is that it must be loose-fitting. The hijab must be loose-fitting. And the shape of the body must not be apparent. Loose-fitting, not tight. Many today you see people wearing, or women wearing tight clothing, and you can see the shape of the body. This is not acceptable. A condition that it must be loose-fitting, it cannot be tight. Number 4 is that there's no decorations upon it to attract the man's eye. Some of these little decorations that they place these days, immediately the man begins to look. This is another condition, that it must not have any decorations to attract men. Number 5 is that it must not be perfumed. It must not have perfume on it. It is haram, and in fact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses the woman who leaves her house and she wears perfume. So the thob, the dress must not have perfume. Also, it must be a thob, or it must be a dress that is worn not showing off. When I say not showing off, you cannot buy a unique dress that, and I'm talking about going outside doors. You cannot buy a unique dress that was $150,000, that has some diamonds upon here, and this, that you're wearing it for showing off. Because whoever wears a thob or a dress showing off in this life, they will not see it in the afterlife. They will not wear that thob, a beautiful thob in the afterlife. Number 7 is that it must not resemble the clothing of men. It is not permissible for a woman to wear the clothing of men, and it is not permissible for a man to wear the clothing of women. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also cursed those people who cross-dressing, for this is not permissible in Islam. Number 8, that it must not resemble the dress of the disbelievers. Specific dress for the disbelievers, that the dress of the believing woman must not resemble this. And the last condition is that it has no crosses or no pictures with souls. When we say pictures with souls, pictures of faces, pictures of anything along those lines that would have a soul in this life. Can have none of this and no crosses at all. And not only crosses, but other symbols that represent other people's religions. It could be a pharaonic symbol. The pharaohs had a religion, so it could be any of those symbols. Any of those symbols is not permissible. And if you cover these 9 conditions, then you have yourself a hijab that is worshipping, that is helping you to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every time you leave your house.